Dear students and friends, it's a pleasure to deliver a lecture on prospecting, which is the first stage of the tertiary geological analysis. Well, to start with, let us see what is prospecting. So, introduction to prospecting. Prospecting is the very first stage in the life cycle of any mine. It is thus defined as a preliminary search for mineral or for geological anomalies that have the potential of being a mineral deposit. Prospecting is laborious and elaborate program, and it involves traversing, panning, shifting and outcrop investigation to trace the signs of mineralization. The conduct of a good prospecting program aims at discovery of maximum number of mineral deposits. One of the most important aspect of prospecting is that it must also be accomplished at minimum cost. Prospecting may be commodity or site specific, which means the search may be limited to a particular mineral or metal or to a particular geographic area. However, the political climate plays a large part in the process of choosing areas in which prospecting and exploration shall be performed. The political variables to be considered include taxation, environmental regulations, duplication and administration of regulations, native land claims, protected areas and socio-economic agreements which are of absolute importance. Generally, the prospecting procedure entails the following steps. Number 1, search, geological reports and other technical literature. Number 2, study available geological maps and surface maps. Number 3, study aerial and satellite photograph. Number 4, prepare photogeologic maps from available information and new aerial data. Number 5, conduct airborne geophysical survey of the area. Number 6, conduct preliminary ground geologic, geophysical and geochemical surveys. Number 7, assemble and analyze the findings. Now, before launching a prospecting program, its prerequisites must be clearly defined and understood towards realizing the envisaged goal. The following are the prospecting inputs to be kept in mind for an efficient evaluation program. Number 1, aerial, which means evaluation of the potential in a relatively unexplored country, state, area or geological province. Number 2, geologic, which means to evaluate the potential in a given geological terrain. Number 3, the size, this means determination of the minimum acceptable size of deposit. Number 4, risk, this means to determine the acceptable element of risk. Number 5, time, this means to determine the acceptable time frame for discovering, exploring and developing the deposit so as to bring it to the production stage from the grassroots prospecting program. Number 6, finance, this means making the budgetary provisions for stipulated time frame. Geologic prospecting applies knowledge of the genesis and occurrence of mineral deposits, structural mapping and mineralogic and petrographic analysis to discover, define and appraise mineral prospects. It remains the foundation stone of both prospecting and exploration. One of the most important tools of geological search for minerals is the knowledge of the formation of the mineral deposits and the influence of this knowledge on the search for new deposits. Deposits are either primary or secondary or metamorphic. Primary deposits are formed from magmas, secondary deposits are formed from chemical and mechanical weathering, and metamorphic minerals are formed due to heat and pressure. A further distinction is that mineral deposits are syngenetic if they are formed contemporaneously with the host rock, and epigenetic if formed subsequently. The geologist uses his or her knowledge of mineral deposits and their genesis to locate favorable geological venues in a variety of ways. General geologic surface mapping of formations showing the composition, deposition, distribution, age, other relevant details and relationship of the various formations is normally the starting point. The structural geology can be a clue to the existence of ore bodies. Remote sensing is defined as the science of acquiring, processing and interpreting images and related data obtained from aircraft, satellite and underwater instrumentation systems. It is used for methods that employ electromagnetic energy such as light, heat and radio waves as the means of mapping and measuring the properties of the earth. Remote sensing has several limitations. One of the fact that no current remote sensing methods can give a clear visual deep below the surface. This technique involves acquisition of information about a specific object or phenomena without intimate contact between the sensing device and the object or phenomenon. Modern prospecting programs employ an integrated approach wherein the data generated by diverse remote sensing techniques are put together and analyzed. These techniques include photogeology, aerial gamma ray spectrometry and magnetic surveys, Landsat imagery, SLR, that means side looking radar, and multispectral scanning images. Landsat imagery. The launching of Landsat 1 in 1972 marked a new era in remote sensing technology. Images obtained from a satellite revolving in geostationary orbit at a height of over 36,000 km provide a synoptic view of large areas of the earth's surface which are not available from aerial photography. Angles subtended by the imaging instruments are small, 11 degree for Landsat 1 to 3 and 15 degree for Landsat 4. The entire image appears uniformly illuminated for the production of mosaics of images. Landsats operate in a sun synchronous orbits SSO to ensure that the surface illumination at a given time of a year and at a given latitude is globally consistent. This property enables extrapolation of results from one area to another, even though they may be widely separated. The sun is the most obvious surface of electromagnetic radiation for remote sensing. All matter at temperatures above absolute zero continuously emit electromagnetic radiations. Thus, terrestrial objects are also sources of radiation, though the magnitude and spectral composition of such radiation are considerably different from those of solar radiation. The Landsat Multispectral Scanner MSS collects image data by scanning detectors across the track underneath the spacecraft. The brightness values of terrain elements are recorded in 4 spectral bands. The data is recovered in digital form for subsequent manipulation by computer before the final image is formed. The MSS are designed to sense energy in a number of narrow spectral bands. simultaneously. These bands may range from the ultraviolet through the visible and reflected infrared to the thermal portion of the spectrum. The four broad spectral bands or channels used for data acquisition by MSS are spectral bands and range. Band 4 color green, range in micrometer 0.5 to 0.6. Band 5 color red, range in micrometer 0.6 to 0.7. Band 6 color infrared, range in micrometer 0.7 to 0.8. Band 7 color infrared, range in micrometer 0.8 to 1.1. Most common sensing systems operate in the visible, reflected and thermal or microwave portions of the spectrum. The mechanism is based on the interaction of energy with earth surface features. The reflectance characteristics of the features of the earth's surface are quantified by measuring the portion of incident energy that is reflected. This is measured as a function of wavelength and is called spectral reflectance, R, capital R, where R equal to energy of wavelength reflected from the object divided by energy of wavelength incident on the object multiplied by 100. The geophysical survey is conducted to study the geological feature of the prospective, which involves determination of its structure, lithology, density contrast, magnetic properties of sedimentary basins or basement configurations that may have a direct bearing on the particular type of mineralization. Geophysics is the science of measuring and interpreting the physical properties of the earth or other astronomical bodies. Geophysical prospecting techniques have been extremely useful in broadly defining the nature of the prospective terrain and the associated geologic features. The process of using geophysical measurement for the purpose of identification of anomalies has been well established in oil and gases prospecting in comparison to searching for minerals, and continuous improvements have made geophysical methods increasingly useful in mineral prospecting as well. There must be some physical differences between the properties of different materials to detect the geophysical anomaly. This method is usually classified on the basis of the principle of operation of property measured, namely electrical, electromagnetic, magnetic, gravity, radiometry, seismic and thermal characteristics are some of the important physical properties used in geophysics. A good geophysical prospecting program usually culminates into providing a series of maps or profiles portraying the variation in the measured physical properties of the area investigated. Number 1, electrical self potential. This technique is based on the property of producing a weak electric current when interacting with groundwater. In this case, deposit acts as a weak battery. Number 2, electrical induced polarization. This technique rests on the principle that ground produces electrical field by passing a measured amount of current through it using two electrodes inserted in the ground. The voltage produced around the two electrodes by this field is then determined by using a second pair of electrodes to measure the resistivity of the surrounding formations. Number 3, electrical electromagnetic. This technique uses very low frequency electromagnetic waves generated on the ground from an airborne platform to detect mineral deposits. The primary field is generated by a transmitter, and a secondary wave that can be measured by a receiver coil is then used to detect anomalies that indicate a conducive body below the ground surface. This method is capable of locating sulphide and oxide ore bodies, graphite and associated pyrite or pyrrhotite. This process allows the system to measure the properties of the secondary field in the earth. The electromagnetic method has been one of the most successful methods of geophysical prospecting. In recent decades, this method of prospecting is finding increasing application in view of the fact that it has a greater sensitivity and detection efficiency than the conventional geophysical techniques. As the name implies, the electromagnetic field has two distinct components, namely electrical intensity E, small e, and magnetic intensity designated as small h. Gravity. The gravitational field associated with the earth varies from place to place because of the localized effects of the variation in mineral densities. The gravitational force will therefore increase slightly when dense formations are located under the point of measurement. The instrument that detects the changes in gravity is known as gravimeter. The gravimetric method is useful when the formations of interest have densities which are appreciably different from those of surrounding formations. For example, in sedimentary basins, where the basement rocks have a consistently higher density than the overlying sediments, gravimetric data can be used to interpret lateral changes of rock types and the configuration of subsurface structures. This process uses analysis of chemical content of the rock. The geochemical method of prospecting has developed recently in comparison to other methods, but has yielded far more valuable information in comparison to other methods. The advantage of geochemical surveys lies on the fact that it provides direct information on the basis of actual mineral content of the area under investigation. Geochemical surveys provide multi-elemental data which helps in general evaluation of an area with respect to the abundance of the element concerned and its pattern of distribution on a regional scale. In a preliminary phase of prospecting, the geochemical method is used primarily for the preparation of mineral anomaly distribution map, which helps to outline areas of significant mineral concentration. Its application is dependent on the terrain conditions, its accessibility and availability of suitable sampling sites and laboratory facilities, which should preferably be located in the field for speedy analysis of the samples. The operational efficiency of this technique has improved many-fold with the advent and development of computer facilities installed in mobile geochemical laboratories. This feature speeds up the processing and manipulation of the analytical data for rapid evaluation of the area under examination. The cost of this process, however, depends on the number of samples to be analyzed and the cost of maintaining a geochemical sample collection team in the field. The mobilization of elements from its host mineral is an essential prerequisite for effective application of geochemical technique. The method is suitable for the evaluation of those areas where hydromorphic dispersion is dominant. Certain inherent chemical characteristics of mineral are responsible for their oxidation, dissolution, transportation and precipitation under favorable geological environments. The prospective method involves collection of samples from surface such as water, lakes or stream sediments, soil, rock or gas, and their analysis for one or more elements. The solution, migration and precipitation of mineral weathered residue soils, gaussians and hydrologic network are dependent on the following controlling factors. Number 1, type of parent rock and its weathering characteristics. Number 2, oxidation reduction potential of soil solutions. Number 3, co-precipitation and absorption of ions and complexes by various anions, soil colloids, hydrous silicates, alumina, titania and hydrous ferric and manganese oxides. Number 4, various complex reactions with organic matter. Number 5, action of microorganisms. Number 6, climatic conditions. Under the influence of the above causative factors, elements get leached out from its source and form different types of dispersion halos. The detection and analysis of such halos makes the application of geochemical methods effective and result oriented. Dispersion halos, dispersion trains may be primary or secondary in origin. The primary halo is formed more or less at the same time as the primary mineralization, whereas the secondary halo, which is also called as leakage halo, is produced subsequent to primary mineralization as a result of weathering processes. Ore bodies are characterized by an enriched central core or layer surrounded by zones where the mineral content progressively decreases outward until it attains the background value of the host rocks. This is the characteristic pattern of primary halos enveloping the ore bodies. When ore bodies are exposed or when they come into contact with the oxygenated ground water, they usually undergo extensive oxidation. As a result, the ore and the gangue minerals disintegrate. Some of their constituent elements are dissolved and carried away by the groundwater system. This water ultimately erupts at the surface as the springs to feed the streams and rivers and other outlets of the drainage system of an area. In many mineralized belts, these waters show a higher than normal metal content, which is invariably associated with elements derived from the ore and gangue minerals of the ore bodies. This leads to the development of leakage halos and hydrochemical dispersion trains in which the metal content is markedly higher at the spring orifices with steadily decreasing trend in the downstream, possibly due to the contamination and dilution of surface water. The disintegration products of radioactive deposits are not only dissolved in the groundwater, but are also extensively dispersed in the soil and weathered overlain residuum and along the downslope of the deposits. Such dispersion halos, which show pronounced variation in their characteristic feature depending upon the type of soil, nature of vegetation, topography and numerous other related factors before commencement of the actual geochemical surveys. Preliminary orientation surveys are conducted to determine the background value of metals, which means its normal abundance. This is useful in analyzing a relatively large number of samples selected from various sources. From the analytical data, the threshold value is determined for a given area. The determination of mean and standard deviation helps to categorize background, threshold and anomalous classes. Generally, mean value plus twice the standard deviation defines the threshold level. It is against this threshold value that anomalies are compared and evaluated. Whenever the concentration is significantly greater than the threshold value, it constitutes an anomaly of significance. Geobotanical prospecting is the science of employing the changes in the pattern of vegetation growth in an area as a visual or analytical guide to mineralization. Although inexact and only an indicator, geobotany can be used to detect areas of the ground surface where minerals have affected the characteristics of plant species. Geobotanical methods of prospecting are based on the visual observation and identification of vegetation or plant cover that may reveal the presence of a specific type of subsurface mineralization. In this method, it is presumed that a particular variety of plant species is an indicator of a particular mineral. In recent years, geobotanical methods have become useful in the identification of ore deposits, particularly in areas of dense vegetation. The method dates back to 8th and 9th century, when the Chinese had observed the association of certain plant species with mineral deposits. In early 19th century, the Russian geologist Karpinski observed that different plants or plant communities could be indicators of rock formations and that characteristics of the plants of an area could be used to decipher the geology of the area. The method has evolved over the years and now more than 100 species have been recognized as indicators of the presence of a large number of elements, including ore metals. Two distinct approaches of geobotanical prospecting have been developed to cope up with the specific problems of prospecting. The first approach is based upon the presence of minerals in all plants in small but measurable amounts. It has been observed that the mineral content of plants rooted in mineralized ground is detectably higher than the mineral content of plants rooted in unmineralized ground. Plant ash is analyzed directly for the determination of mineral content. The mineral content of the ash of plants growing above the unmineralized formations is generally less than 1 ppm, that is parts per million, whereas that of plants rooted in ore bodies containing several parts per million, and this technique helps in the broad outlining of the mineralized areas. The second approach involves mapping the distribution of certain indicator plants growing in geological favorable areas. A plant may be used as an indicator provided it is established that its growth is controlled by certain factors which are related to the chemistry of ore deposit. The sandstone type of deposit contains an appreciable amount of selenium and sulfur. The distribution pattern of plants which require one of these elements for normal growth may indicate favorable ground for subsurface mineralization. Plant morphology and physiology is profoundly influenced by the chemical composition of subsurface ore bodies and also the groundwater regime. Mineral prospecting is a sequential process of information gathering that assesses the mineral potential of a given area. It is a preliminary search engine for exhaustive search process. Prospecting, however, is constrained by several limitations inclusive of time and financial limitations. A variety of methods are available for mineral prospecting based on the application of multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary knowledge of geology, geophysics, chemistry, botany, imaging techniques and information technology. An efficient prospecting program paves the pathway for a comprehensive exploration program as the next stage in life cycle of any mining project. Thank you so much.